They called me poor in the middle of a mahogany dining room that I owned. Not rented, not shared, owned down to the deed in a filing cabinet that bore my signature. My name is Varel Dane, and for most of my life, my extended family thought I was a failure. At the D&E family's monthly strategy dinners, everyone came armed with business bragging rights. Blair would flaunt her luxury brand campaigns like they were royal decrees. Jackson, he once made a toast about a helicopter ride he took just to skip traffic. I showed up in worn jeans driving a 10-year-old sedan with barely a whisper about my work. And so they assumed the worst. You're still in that little apartment, right? Blair had asked last month with a smirk, her gold bangles clinking like punctuation marks. You should really consider something more adult. I smiled, nodded, and reached for the pitcher of water. They didn't know that the little apartment she referred to sat at the center of a 5-property portfolio I owned under a name they'd never connect. To me, Cobalt Ridge Partners, tonight would be different. Tonight they'd finally find out what I'd been building in silence. And what happens when the family disgrace turns out to hold the keys to everything they thought was theirs. The Dane estate hadn't changed in 20 years. It was still the same sprawling monument to generational wealth. White stone arches, groomed hedges clipped with obsessive precision, and a valet station that ran like a 5-star hotel. Even the doormat still read, "Excellence is in our blood." I pulled up in my dusty Subaru, parked 2 streets over, and walked in through the side path. I didn't need the valet or their questions. Not tonight. Inside, the foyer gleamed. Polished marble, abstract all paintings that meant nothing, staff in crisp black uniforms. No one greeted me by name, but I knew the layout by muscle memory. I could still feel the sting from every childhood dinner where I'd been seated at the far end, like a distant cousin someone had to invite out of guilt. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, a cavernous space with vated ceilings and a chandelier so oversized it looked like it could crush you if you said the wrong thing. I took my usual seat, not quite at the children's table, but certainly not among the power players. My cousin Jackson was already in full form, swirling his Cabernet like it was a prop. "Just flew in from Aspen," he said, speaking loud enough for the entire table. "Closed on a chalet next to a guy who owns half of Silicon Valley. The floors heat themselves and the driveway melts snow." "Sounds charming," Aunt Celeste said, not looking up from her wine. "We just hosted the governor for brunch. He brought his own chef, not to be outdone." Blair joined in. "I had lunch with someone from Vogue Interiors last week," she purred. "They want to feature my new flagship in Soho. It's all reclaimed marble and custom cashmere walls. Only by invitation." Of course, laughter rippled around the table. I took a quiet sip of water, still sparkling, still overpriced, still meant to remind you that you didn't belong. Uncle Malcolm was tapping at his phone. He never said much, just nodded approvingly at the loudest voices. And then, of course, came the pivot. Aunt Celeste turned toward me with that perfectly still smile. "And Varel, dear, how's Portland?" There it was. I set my fork down. "Peaceful," I said. Blair leaned in, eyes already gleaming. "You're still in that little duplex, right? On Maple or wait, Marion Street." "Marion," I answered slowly. "Oh right, Marion," she laughed. "Isn't that where they're planning to do rationing? Something about the whole block being bought out?" I gave a neutral shrug. "I've heard rumors, truth, that building was one of my earliest acquisitions, the very first multi-unit property under Cobalt Ridge Partners. I'd overseen the renovations myself, fought tooth and nail to preserve the 1940s stonework, and negotiated protections so long time residents wouldn't be pushed out. To them, it was a forgotten corner of town. To me, it was sacred ground, still renting then." Jackson added with a smirk, "Didn't know people still did that after 30. I like the space," I replied simply. Celeste tilted her head. "But you're 36 now, aren't you, dear?" 36, I confirmed. She gave a faux sympathetic sigh. "It's time to own something real, build a future." The table nodded in smug consensus. "I'm managing," I said, fighting the curl of a smile. They kept going like I hadn't even spoken. Blair was on her second glass of wine and her third monologue about boutique fragrance markets. Jackson discussed commercial properties in Miami he hadn't even visited. Celeste spoke of legacy wealth like it was her invention. They assumed I was just there to listen. What they didn't know, what none of them could even begin to imagine, was that the very room they were sitting in, the estate they held so dear, was soon to be entangled in the biggest reckoning of tea.